G'day there guys, thinks eating 20 nuggets is a personality trait, back at it again with another episode of r/am I the a-hole. Now if you love me like I love you, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, a like on the video, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Posted by user ThrowRA Jelosabif. Titled, Am I the a-hole for asking my girlfriend, 23 female, to consider quitting a job that bothers me? Before anyone gets upset, I am not insisting that she quits this job, and if she chooses not to, that is her prerogative. I just asked her to consider doing so. My girlfriend Anna is currently a law student, her second degree after qualifying in a language degree. During the summer, she works for a family friend named David. She calls her job a personal assistant, but it seems much broader than that. She is his translator and interpreter. She goes to events with business partners as his date or partner, and when clients visit David at home or go to dinner with him, she entertains their wives and makes drinks or entertains or cooks, etc. When David hosts events, Anna runs them, wrangling guests and arranging seat plans and so on. In essence, it often appears that she's kind of a hired wife. I've never encountered a job of this kind before. David is mid-30s and unmarried. Anna has alluded to him hiring escorts when they're abroad, and I've never met him, but this made me feel very uneasy. For the whole summer, she is with him. There is a room in his London house that she calls her study, with a sofa that she sleeps on, and they regularly travel abroad together. I never see her during this time. She claims to work from 7 a.m. till 11 p.m. 6 days a week, and says David does not like her to use her phone during work hours. She also said David does not like her to eat during work hours either, but he counts her going to the gym as a valid use of work hours. On top of this are business expenses, such as David buying her clothes. Even when she's at university, she is frequently getting phone calls from him at all hours of the night, which she says is due to the time difference. 2 nights ago, we had a big fight over this job. I told her she looked like she'd lost a lot of weight, and she just brushed it off and said that she had a stressful job. I said it seemed like a very weird set of duties, and she got very defensive. It had started out as a normal job, but that she had taken on more duties as David had started to depend on her. How much can he depend on her when she's still at university for a third of the year? She let slip during this conversation David was funding her law degree and paying her a stipend even when she was not working, and I told her that I found the whole arrangement to be very suspicious, asking if she wasn't sure it wasn't something sketchy or that she wasn't being exploited in some way, not saying in what way. I told her she might want to reconsider a job which basically turned her into a non-sexual escort, and that I was uncomfortable with the whole thing. She shut me down and told me that I was being a controlling a-hole, and that her job was her own, and that even suggesting she consider what a weird occupation she had was a massive dick move on my part. But me, I genuinely feel like I'm going crazy anytime I try to explain her job to others, and even when I think about it myself. FAQ. 1. I've known her for 5 years, dating for 3. We lived together while studying with 4 other roommates. She has had this job since before we started dating, and David was always her quirky boss that she would have anecdotes about. 2. David knows her family and is close to her older cousins. That is from what she has mentioned. Anna and David are both Russian. His family is much wealthier than hers, if I understand correctly. Her family knows that she has this job and think it is great. She includes this work on her CV. She's on the books to some degree, as she gets her weekly salary into her accounts and bonuses in cash, from what I understand. The clothes she gets are nice but not flashy, just normal work clothes like blouses and pants or neat dresses. I do not know if they are designer. She has the occasional very nice cocktail dress from an event that she either sells for cash or keeps for other events. I do not know if it's from a high-end label. 4. He is not paying for American law school. It's a UK undergraduate degree in law. Still expensive, but not as bad as Yanks think it is. About £27,000 total, if I remember correctly. 5. There is a possibility mentioned elsewhere that she may be misrepresenting the eating rules due to her history of disordered eating. This is something I intend to discuss with her. And 6, you can stop telling me she's likely having sex with David. There are 800 plus comments here saying something similar, and it isn't particularly relevant to the discussion. Mini update. We spoke briefly on the phone this morning before she started work. She apologized for flipping out, saying that she was stressed and unwell. I said I wanted to bring her and David out for lunch to clear up this misunderstanding and apologize for being controlling. She went off the phone to speak to someone and came back on and said David wanted to have me for dinner, presumably not in the Hannibal sense. She said she would get back to me by the end of the day with a day and time that works. So if she doesn't, well, I don't know. I guess I'm gonna go not the a-hole for this situation here. This is a really weird work situation she's got herself into. It does, have hints of a non-escort style of job. It kind of makes me uncomfortable listening to it because she's out with him so much. He's basically paying her to be an emotional partner for him. And the disordered eating is also very concerning, but that's a personal issue and that's not really my business. I don't know what OP is doing, but asking her to maybe, chill with this job would be a step in the right direction, in my opinion. Not the a-hole. I worked a job that was very different in nature, but had a boss that was similarly controlling. Unfortunately, I was so under the control of my boss that I didn't even realize how unhealthy my life had become. I'm saying this to point out that your girlfriend may not realize the danger that she is in. My response when people tried to talk to me about the job was to become defensive, and sounds like she's the same. I truly hope you're able to help her get out of the situation. I wish I had the clarity to understand the concerns that my loved ones expressed at the time. Again, not the a-hole, you were right to be concerned. Not the a-hole. Don't even bother to ask her to quit. She'll just flip it on you as if you were controlling and unreasonable, and you aren't. Sad to say this, but I'm guessing if you dump her for this job, she'll bounce pretty quick, which will show you that you've dodged a massive bullet. Dump yesterday. Update. Am I the a-hole for asking my girlfriend to consider quitting a job that bothers me? So, long story short, Anna and I talked about taking a break from our relationship due to the demands of her work, but we are still together. First things first, I told her about the post, and she found it hilarious that so many commenters thought that she was good looking enough to be a sugar baby and said to say thanks. I've apologized for overreacting and telling her to quit her job, and she's apologized a ton for how little time she's had for me and our relationship, and how she dismissed my concerns. At the suggestion of some comments here, she let me run some of her texts with David through Google Translate, although I could tell she felt a bit insecure about the lack of trust that implied, but she agreed in black and white her relationship with David seemed sketchy. They were all friendly and mostly business related, some that read like a good friends complaining or teasing each other. He sent her a few photos of him in suits, her replies were all style related, and she sent him a few photos of food, e.g., while they were on dates. My name cropped up a few times in a very natural way. I went for dinner with her and David a few weeks ago. This mainly confirmed what I had suspected and hoped. First, that their arrangements has a lot to do with their families and a sense of looking out for one another. When I say David has photos of Anna in his house that might seem like a red flag, but they were not girlfriend pictures, there was one of her graduation with her father and one from a trip to Russia where she is with his grandfather, and lots of photos of her brothers as well. Second, that David is on some kind of spectrum that means Anna helps him with social aspects of business. I don't mean that in an insulting way at all, but that was just the impression I got. He was very polite to me and told me he was glad to meet me at last, and that he had been instructed to relay information back to Anna's family about whether or not they should approve of me. Third, like a lot of people suggested, Anna's interpretation of the rules had a lot to do with her ED. She isn't allowed to eat in front of clients, but she's self-conscious about eating in front of David as well, so she ends up not eating at all during work. She's promised to go back to therapy about this issue, and I got the impression David wasn't happy she had told me a lie about her working conditions. Not really sure what else I can add. We're gonna stay together. She has promised to renegotiate some of her terms with David to try and have a bit more of a normal existence during the summer, and David sent me a nice watch with a little message attached thanking me for coming to dinner. Anna has joked that this was payment to keep me happy and technically makes me her pimp. So we'll see. TLDR, both of us consider ourselves the a-hole. David seems to be neither an a-hole nor banging my girlfriend, and we are still together. Well, that's a cute little update. I never commented on your original post, mainly because I had nothing else to add to everyone else. It's good you've gotten everything sorted out. It's great she's going back to therapy, and hopefully everything moving forward will be more comfortable. And fingers crossed you get the family's vote approval. Just don't forget to keep the tracks of communication open between yourself and Anna, but also David, probably via Anna. Good luck moving forward and upward. So, I have autism. If I was wealthy enough and had a job like David, I would absolutely want to hire someone like Anna to help grease social wheels for me. Like in those rhetorical questions where you win the lottery but can't save or invest, my answer was always to get a personal assistant so I never had to make a phone call for things like appointments or whatever. It sounds like David had a similar desire and seems to have screwed it up for you and Anna. His autism and Anna's eating disorder just seemed to spectacularly collide. I'm sorry that this happened, and I hope you can all communicate and figure it out. In addition to this, David probably would never have thought twice about it being weird, since at least to my kids, most things that NT folks do is weird AF to them. Posted by user Clothes in Drawers, titled, Am I the a-hole for throwing my kids' clothes onto the floor when they don't fold their clothes neatly? So I've always been kind of a neat freak mum the entire time my kids have been alive. I always expect their rooms to be clean, and I check their drawers, closets, and storage bins to make sure they don't just shove stuff in there to make the room appear clean. The kids, 16, 13, 9, and 6, are all responsible for putting away their laundry, and my oldest two are responsible for folding their own clothes, which bothers me because my 13-year-old folds his clothes in a way that bothers me. He rolls them up instead of properly folding them. Ever since the kids have been home and have more free time, I'm more strict about the way they put their clothes away. I expect their clothes to be folded a certain way and organized in a certain way in their drawers. I read from a mummy blogger a few years ago that when her kids' drawers weren't organized, she would make a mess for them to organize the right way. I considered it for a few years, but now that the kids are old enough, I think it is the way to go for us. I haven't had to do this until yesterday. I walked into my 16-year-old's room while she was FaceTiming her boyfriend, and I saw her basket of laundry that needed to be folded. And, out of curiosity, opened her drawers and see that she has shoved her clothes in there. I started making a mess, and she screamed, "Mom, why?" And I told her she knew why. After that, I walked out of her room. She explained to her boyfriend what I did, and he says, "Your mum's fudging crazy, bruh." And I peek my head into the room, give her a look, and she ends the call with him and breaks down crying. I told my husband what happened, and he told me, "I knew you were going to do that, but I didn't know you would actually follow through." This morning, I woke up to a note on my daughter's door saying, "Until mum can get mental help, I'm staying with my aunt, sister's name." I texted her, no response. I tried contacting my sister, who said that she has no plans to return until I get mental help and stop being such a controlling tramp. My husband, sister, and mum are all against me in this, which hurts. I don't think it harmed my daughter. It benefits her and helps her stay organized. And I think you're living in a world of delusion, OP, and I don't think you realize the damage that you're doing by forcing these rules on your kids when there's obvious blowback from them. Especially this one who has abandoned the household until you get help. I feel like that's a pretty, clear sign that things aren't working well in that household, and yet you continue your antics. You're the problem, OP. It seems like you've got a problem with looking yourself in the mirror every day and seeing yourself for who you are, so you're the a-hole. Update: Am I the a-hole for throwing my kids' clothes onto the floor when they don't fold them neatly? Almost 2 months ago, I made a post on here about me throwing my daughter's clothes onto the drawer when they weren't folded neatly. Well, that post really blew up, and people on Twitter also chimed in. Well, the night I made the post, I was still in serious denial. I replied to some comments, and my denial was perfectly clear for everyone to see. The day after, I read some more comments and messages that I received from everyone. I resorted to the guest room and cried for hours. I read some people tell me that their mums were similar to me and they no longer have relationships with them. That was truly my worst fear. I seriously love my kids more than anything on this planet, even if my actions don't always show it. I booked a virtual appointment with a psychologist who diagnosed me with OCD and let me know she would help me. I have since had about 8 sessions with her, and she's been a big help. Of course, I still have a long way to go, but I've been noticing some improvements already. As for my daughter, she stayed at my sister's house and came home a few days later after I told her that there would be major improvements made in my behavior. I sat all the kids down and told them that I have the resources to not be such an overbearing a-hole to them anymore. One thing I do want to address is the fact that I was usually controlling with my kids, but the incident I wrote about was the one that sent me and my daughter over the edge. Me and her are on much better terms, and I want to thank Reddit for waking me the hell up to become a better mum and wife. I also want to apologize to anyone who I brought back bad memories to. I want to have relationships with my children until we all grow old, and I know so many of you guys don't have that, which breaks my heart. But also hearing your stories gave me a big change of heart, and helping me fix my relationships and become a better person. I just want to add that the pandemic and a ton of other current events are very triggering to OCD. I was diagnosed in 2015 and have had resources to help me. In 2019, I felt very good about where I was with my OCD, but by mid-March 2020, I was in a very dark place. Please hold yourself accountable, but also forgive yourself when things get hard. As a child whose parents had mental health struggles that made my childhood difficult to nightmarish, I also just want to thank you for being honest with yourself and being able to keep growing. I'm so proud of you. Soprano23 says, I wish my mum could have the same wake-up call that you had. The issues I have with her are different, but they still boil down to her being controlling and doing things that hurt our relationship, but she won't take responsibility for them because she doesn't think anything is wrong. At best, she once told me that she doesn't want to see a therapist because she's afraid of finding out something is wrong with her. Thank you so much for taking criticism to heart, no matter how difficult it was, for the sake of your kids. It may take a while to mend things, but you're already well on your way, and your family will be all the better for it. My mum was like this when I was a kid. We now no longer speak due to her overbearing, controlling behavior, and for many other reasons that she refused to get help for, and still to this day won't. I wish my mum had took it upon herself to recognize how much damage she was doing, and make moves to amend it in the way that you have, OP. As we may still have a relationship if she had. It's too late for us, but not for you and your daughter. Good luck. Posted by user dcolic19, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they are irresponsible for getting pregnant for the 6th time? I am female 19, and I am my parents' second child. I have 3 brothers, 21, 13, and 7, and a sister 16. We grew up poor, and our parents were often dependent on financial help from relatives, friends, etc. for raising us. This is because even though my dad has a mediocre job, and my mum doesn't work, they just kept on popping out one kid after another. My parents are very religious, and believe that children are a gift from God. Personally, I think that's total BS. My parents' reproductive choices wouldn't bother me if it hadn't caused mine and my siblings' lives to turn to crap. While growing up, we never had new clothes or toys. We had to accept handouts from family members who were better off. We never went out or did anything fun. Now, my older brother and I have managed to get into good colleges and are looking forward to a future that would be better than our parents' lives. He and I have been home for quite a while due to the pandemic's lockdown. Yesterday, my parents called all 5 of us into the living room. Mum said she had great news. The smile that was forming on my face dies a quick death when she said, "We're pregnant!" I lost my temper. I asked them how they could be so stupid and irresponsible. Do they not have enough financial troubles already that they have to bring in another mouth to feed? My older brother tried to calm me down, but I was livid. After a lifetime of scarcity because of my parents' stupidity, they still had not learned their lesson. I asked them how they planned to provide for the kid. My dad told me I would have to give up the money our great uncle had left me. He had left all 5 of us some money, which only we could access when we turned 18. I said, hell no, that money would help pay for my college expenses. He called me selfish for not being there for family. I told them if they couldn't provide for the kid, they should get an abortion. My mum started crying and called me a heartless monster. Dad told me he was disgusted with me, and I told them there was no way I was going to pay for their stupidity. Since then, the atmosphere in our house has been very tense. So tell me, am I the a-hole? Edits, I forgot to add that I told them that the only thing I'd help pay for is an abortion. FYI, I'm not American, and abortion is completely legal in my country. Edit 2, I want to thank all of you for your kind and helpful comments. Some of you asked if my money is safe. Yes, it is. My parents can't get it without my written consent, which they are not going to get. It was suggested that I talk to my younger sister. I'm planning to do that, and I'm going to do my best to ensure that she doesn't fall for any guilt tripping by my parents. To those of you who suggested that my comments were cruel, I see where you're coming from, but my biggest worry is the way my parents' reckless lifestyle is going to affect my younger siblings. And they're not doing this kid any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. Once again, thank you very much. Sorry to you guys that believe in pro-life, but I agree with OP in this one here. I respect the decisions of pro-life, but it sounds like they are not having a good existence in that household, and it's completely due to the parents' actions. The parents chose to have that many kids. They chose to give the kids a low-quality upbringing. I would not do that to my potential kids. I would not bring a child into this world knowing that it's going to be raised in worse conditions than I had, and it was going to be severely disadvantaged because of that. I think the OP's parents are doing a disservice to the entire family, and I think that they're the a-hole, and OP is not the a-hole for their actions and their words, as cruel as they may have been. Not the a-hole. Was your delivery the best? Probably not. But you have every right to be frustrated and to give your very valid opinion. I would ensure your parents have no access to your inheritance, etc. I agree about the money. If OP quits college, she may be locked in a less desirable financial future. I hope she stays in school. I'm sure they'll still have their handouts when the older kids get good jobs though. I'd almost argue that their intent in saying that she'd have to give up her money, they'll try it on all the others as well. Who expects a child to pay for their siblings? Also, these children are spaced out a bit too far for them not to be planned. Looks like Mum and Dad tried for 2 years for the first half of the bunch and 5 years for the second, when they realized how much work it was. Honestly, they want their children to keep raising their other children forever, keep the family close or whatever. Even though she ain't a girl, saying she's infertile, and you can forget the rubber, this is still a baby trap. OP and her siblings need to get the hell out as soon as possible with that money from their uncle. I'm not so sure about the unplanned idea. Like the OP, I'm not American, and in my country, most parents qualify for a monthly payout from the government to help with childcare, even if the child isn't in daycare. Here, you get the max payout if you're low income and the child is under 7 years old. After the child hits school, the payout drops. And at 18, the payout stops. I've known people who pop out a kid every few years to play the system. Not the a-hole. I was about to say live and let live, etc., until the bit about them expecting you to pay for the child. Not okay. They want a kid, they can pay for it. If God has blessed them with a baby, maybe God can sort out the expenses. Update. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they are irresponsible for getting pregnant for the 6th time? Quite a lot has happened since I originally posted about this. I decided to get some family members involved so they could talk some sense into my parents. I called my mum's maternal cousin. She's one of my favorite people. When I told her that mum and dad were having another kid, she reacted with, "What? Again?" I told her everything and how they expected me to hand over my inheritance, and she said that she was going to speak to my parents and told me not to sign over anything. I promised her I wouldn't. Of course I won't. I also called 2 of my first cousins, one of whom is an accountant, so she could explain to my parents how much of a financial liability this baby is going to be, and try to convince them to either abort or give it up for adoption. I moved out of my parents' home a few days ago. I was only going to stay here until lockdown was relaxed, but I just can't bear to listen to my mum's nagging about how this baby is a blessing, and I want to kill it. I've moved into a friend's basement for a minimal rent. My mum's cousin paid them a visit about a week ago and tried to tell them they weren't doing this child any favors by bringing it into a life of poverty. My mum was very rude to my aunt and told her that a woman who chose to remain barren will never understand a mother's love. My aunt never wanted kids, nor had any. Yeah, she can go to hell for saying that. My dad told her to get out. Aunt told me there was nothing she could do, but she did try, and I didn't blame her. The cousin tried to explain the economic impact this kid would have, and my mum cried about how everyone was trying to take away her baby. WTF. The intervention didn't do jack diddly squat. So now I've decided to cut contact with my parents. I just can't watch my family slide further and further into a hellhole. I'll be maintaining contact with my sister, 16, just to make sure my parents can't brainwash her. Otherwise, I'm done with these people. Edit. I want to thank all of you for your support. I think I should add that my brother will maintain contact with my parents. I'm actually glad that he will, because if they prevent my sister from talking to me, my brother can act as a link between me and her. Mars 1040 says, "You had every right in involving your extended family in this, considering your parents kept asking for help from your relatives. I wouldn't be surprised if your relatives cut your parents off for asking for money for their 6th child. And I expect your younger siblings would also be unwilling to give up their inheritance when they get older, considering they grew up poor. Keep in contact with your siblings and let them know that they don't have to give your parents any of their money." The relatives who stood by my side and actually saw the logic in my arguments are in the minority. Most of them think this is wonderful news. Ugh, my mum is one of 13 children. It's a big part of why I'm converting away from Catholicism. The mentality around children, even when there's no certain way to feed them, is so toxic. Good for you for standing up to them. My mum did her own equivalent. When she said she wanted to go to college, her dad said there were cheaper ways to find a husband, and they kicked her out when she decided to stop giving her father her paycheck to pay for her school. And they tried to spend her scholarship money on groceries and cigarettes. And she has an amazing life now, and wouldn't change a thing. You have done the hardest part, it'll only get better from here. Honestly, cutting ties with my parents was the easiest part. I'm just worried about my sister. She'll be the next one to get access to her inheritance, and they are going to try to get her to give it up. The best you can do is set an example and stay in her life. And in a worst case scenario, be there for her after your parents manage to take advantage of her. Sometimes, the biggest difference between getting stuck in your parents' cycle and overcoming it is knowing there is an alternative. You have become an example to your sister that there is an alternative. That's the most anyone can do, and you should be proud of yourself. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something that you didn't know before. If you haven't already, please do feel free to click that like button, as it really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already and you love today's video, please feel free to subscribe. I would love it a lot. Also, big shout out to all my Patreon members and channel subscribers. You guys are all up on the screen right now. I love you. I love your faces. Also, I love seeing you guys all chatting down below in the comments. It brightens my day to see the stories that you guys share and just the kind words you guys always have for my videos, as well as everyone else in the videos. I love you too. But honestly, your ongoing support means the world to me, and I just love it so much that you guys are able to support a career for myself that I invest so much time into. And you guys honestly motivate me to work harder each and every day to put more love into the videos for you guys. If you guys have watched this far in the video and you haven't already subscribed on Patreon or become a channel member, that's cool, you don't have to, but there are links down below. You can donate any amount of money, pledge that any month, cancel whenever. I'm completely cool with it. It's just there for you to support me if you'd like to go the extra mile. And I'll go the extra mile for you guys by putting out new amazing content every single day. With that said, guys, I really hope you have a good day, night, sleep, bath, time at work, whatever you're up to today. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next amazing video. Bye.